Good afternoon, friends. We welcome you to this episode of Through Literary Lens. Vinodji, namaskar.
Namaskar.
And in this episode, Vinodji, we are continuing with the previous episode. In the previous episode, we have discussed about the intellectual, a play by Shri M. Kamal.
Yeah, M. Kamal is a well-known playwright and poet of Sindhi literature. He is a man with great literary merits, and his writings are characterized by intellectual, existential, and philosophical flavor. So his plays are different in the sense there you do not have the names to the characters, you do not have the traditional characterization, traditional setting, and traditional plot. Whatever we get from the play is in the form of conversation between 2 or 3 characters who come before us as character A, B, C, D, like that. So which play, Rajesh, you are going to discuss today?
Yeah. In the collection of plays, 6 of his plays, you yourself, you have, Vinodji, you have translated into English from Sindhi and Hindi, and they are coming before the audience shortly. They will be published and will be available on
Kindle, Amazon. So these plays will be available to the world audiences, to the non-Sindhi readers as well. And definitely you will see that M. Kamal enjoys a place of prominence in the galaxy of great playwrights like Samuel Beckett, Jean-Paul Sartre, Mohan Rakesh, and so many others who have significantly contributed to the development of existential writings.
Yeah, so amongst those 6 plays, we are today discussing the play. Where does this path
lead to? Where does this path lead to?
Yes.
So this is a central metaphor of this play. We come across 2 characters. A, who is seemingly a kind of a half lunatic, right, in torn clothes, and another B character who is dressed up in beautiful clothes.
And he meets A on the square near the electric pole.
And there is a signboard and something is written. And from this point itself, this play is elevated to very great philosophical and existential level, because something is written on the board which is not readable. And one character says, many things must have been written since the first writing, and therefore nothing can be deciphered.
It is all symbolic, Vinodji. It tells us that when we are confronted with the choices in our life, square also symbolizes choice. So which path to take, where to go, and where does this path go?
And this is the making choice is one of the essential dilemmas of our life, of philosophy, of existential approach to life. Which choice to make and how this choice is to be made. Can an individual make a choice on his or her own, or somebody is there out to tell him or her which choice is to be made? And therefore the character B asks this question repeatedly to at least 5 people, right, or groups of people who come by that way. Where does this path lead to? And each of them provides a perspective on the life, because there cannot be a single path, that is for sure. Because again, this is a very important point that M. Kamal is reminding, that was said by Friedrich Nietzsche also, that there is not a single path, there is not a objective reality or truth to which we must head on.
Yeah, and choosing a path, students of English literature would surely remember the play, The Path Not Taken, by Robert Frost.
Poem.
The poem, that's a very beautiful poem which says whenever you take a path, the other is foreclosed. So if you,
and whatever path you take, you are accountable for it. Because you cannot retrace once the choice is made.
You cannot come back and then take the next path, and trial and error is limited. And another interpretation of that poem also tells us that whichever path you take, every path is equally, if it is trodden or untrodden, but ultimately there is not a vast difference between the 2 paths.
And again, so many things are said in this play. Perhaps all the things we cannot simply bring in the discussion. Readers have to read this play by themselves. And the play starts with a very important question.
It says to whether the path leads somewhere, a path makes the man, lead the man, or man leads the path.
No, there is not a straight answer to this. And another very important sentence again, why living are sick and date
And
are
they
healthy. Again, whether the people who are already walked the path, whether they were healthy, and the people who are right now making a choice, why they are sick, we do not know. And again, it also brings out that there is a tendency to worship the date.
Definitely. And when all the five groups of people come one by one on the stage, first comes the couple,
A
then-
young boy and girl who are lovers, and they are engrossed in the romantic love. And when the character asks them, where does this path lead to?
they say that only the person who is alone
Yeah.
searches for the path. The people who are with one another, they are immersed in love. They don't make such inquiries. Means they have found their path of love.
Exactly. So it seems it's a symbolic that the love in itself is a path. The people who are in love do not require any other path. They are not in search of any other destination. Love in itself is a path and destination both. Again, this is a wonderful revelation. If we take it from that angle, this is a wonderful revelation. Person who is alone and person who is alone cannot be in love, because in order to make love, to be in love, there is a requirement of two. Again, it emphasizes very important aspect of human existence, that nobody can live alone. As Francis Bacon says, that either God or the beast can live in solitude.
Definitely. So this path of company, mutual love, that is also a time-honored path, and the person who has really found it, they will not wander here and there in search of different paths.
And to the credit of M. Kamal, we say he does not endorse any particular path.
Definitely.
He brings before us a few choices, right? And the finalist choice is to made by the person himself. And then secondly, social worker who is a political and social worker, political leader perhaps, he comes and again the same question is posed to him. Where does this path lead to?
Yeah.
And he gives a roundabout answers.
Roundabout answers, also typical politician, as if
You have not voted me.
no,
Now you have started asking me the questions.
Yeah.
And he says whether these paths are related to one another or that there are any relations among the paths. So all sort of confusion he creates. Again, this is a scathing commentary on the political system. And
if
the
you
political
cannot
leaders.
convince anybody, you can confuse them.
That's what the social workers, that's what the politicians have been doing all over the world. Instead of straightway finding the answers to the pressing problems, they are simply talking about confusion. Simply they are enacting confusion. Simply they are implementing confusion.
Definitely. Then after that, students come, and as they are pursuing their education, all their paths have these sorts of, whether your merit can earn you the position in life or recommendation is required, and what after the education is over. So they are caught up in the temporal aspects of their existence, how the life can be settled and in which way it can be one can start earning and living a productive
Again,
life.
one student is the symbolic of one path of hope. He wants to proceed on the basis of merit. And on the other hand, there is another student, he wants to proceed on the basis of recommendation. So again, the fair and foul, which path, which choice, even in the education, can education really help the person to get the job on the merit, or some other means are to be used? Again, this is a very pressing contemporary problem. One of the important merits of M. Kamal is that his plays are rooted in the contemporary issues. At the same time, they also touch the universal issues.
Yes, definitely. And then the saint comes, religious. He also, the character B asks the same question to the saint also. He's surrounded by his disciples. And the saint says that you don't want to know who you are, where have you come from, and you just want to, this path where it is going. It's
Again,
not a path, it's just an illusion.
Yes, Rajesh, again, the religion is trying to shift our attention from the immediate problems, the problems which surround us in this life, to so-called philosophical and metaphysical wranglings of the other world. And to top it all, this religious person tells, these are not the paths.
These are just illusions.
This is just an illusion.
So,
because we have reduced this life to Maya in Indian philosophy and even in the Western spirituality, that it is an illusion. This is not something real, and therefore we should not be truly concerned with this life. And that's the same attitude, traditional religious attitude, is reflected in the words of this religious leader.
Yeah, Vinod, I remember my own lines. कि यह पृथ्वी एक ख्वाब बताकर
Exactly.
दूजी दुनिया दूर दिखाकर तन मन धन के अर्पण सी है हर पीड़ा उत्पीड़ित सी है.
Exactly. You have projected this world to be an illusion, and the real is in the distant and therefore unattainable.
And this is what the religion projects the world to be. And in this way, it exploits the people.
And therefore, every agony is equated
exploitation.
to the exploitation. So these are wonderful lines. And again, perhaps M. Kamal says that for few, the path of an illusion can be true for the religious people, but we cannot simply find the salvation for the contemporary man. That is a real question, because we all find ourselves stuck, fixed, and this B is the symbolic of that fixedness, and that is why he continuously asks that question: where does this path lead to? And then the two goons come.
They don't find anything valuable with this person who is searching for the path, and their paths lead to some social club where the so-called honorable people can do everything, and one path leads to jail, courts, and back to slum. And so they are trying to say that if you have impunity, you can achieve everything, you can get all the materialistic pleasures for which they are condemned to commit crimes.
Again, there is a at the subterranean level, there is a satire on social and political and economic system. He says from prison you can land into slum, from slum to Bangalore, from Bangalore to 5-star, and this path is so complicated. So the path to prosperity, path to power is so complicated that it is beyond the reach of an ordinary, honest, sincere person. And this is a bitter reality, whether we accept or not. Path to prosperity and power simply is out of the reach of those who do have still values left in them.
Yeah. And then finally comes the drunkard.
Yes.
And then he is in the world of his own. He says, I knew the path 1 hour ago, but now I forget it.
Again, that symbolizes the loss of those glorious days. It reminds us of William Wordsworth, where that dream is gone, where that glory and dream has disappeared, right?
It reminds me of Naguib Mahfouz, Adrift on the Nile, Vinodji. A few days ago we discussed. In that, Anis Zaki says, I knew the secret of eternal life in my dream last night, but on my way to office I forgot it.
And again, this drunkard person says a very important thing. He says, until unless you are not intoxicated, forget about walking. You cannot see the path.
You can't even see. The mist of conditioning which overshadows our minds does not make us capable of really seeing the life as it is. As well, you can't see the life steadily, and you can't see it as a whole.
So as person, when he is under the intoxication, that social condition little bit gets loosened. And person speaks out the truth. Similarly, M. Kamal perhaps trying to say that if we simply decondition ourselves like that of a drunkard person, and this intoxication is not to be taken literally, but intoxication can come from any task to which you are committed. That is intoxication. Until unless you are not mad, until unless you are not drunkard, where you do not care what the people say around you, till that time it's impossible to walk on any path. So this is really important. That is how he is trying to awaken our deadened sensibility. Again, here we are reminded of T.S. Eliot, of his Westland, where it says Hieronymo is mad again. So that kind of madness, that kind of drunkenness is warranted here.
And I take it, Vinodji, that such an intoxication, whether it is literal or symbolic, it as you said, it interconnects everything back into the whole. We are used to perceiving the world in fragments, and so we really can't get to the essence of it. But if we think, and if we perceive, and if we feel that everything is interconnected, as an intoxicated person feels, then we can really appreciate in what way our behavior is going to have repercussions and implications, and in what way all the parts are woven into the whole.
Again, somewhere M. Kamal is taking back us to the philosophy of Plato, who speaks of holism. Everything is to be understood in a holistic manner. unfortunately our over enthusiasm, our over commitment to rationality and to the scientific thinking is breaking down imaginary, emotional, aesthetic and spiritual interconnections that have held the world intact morally, emotionally, psychologically. That is a real challenge because we do not know the path has somewhere disappeared, just like on the writings on the board.
Yeah.
Because writings have become faded, so faded that they have become unreadable.
And originally something was written. So this again also gives us a possibility, whether it is right or wrong, true or false, we don't know, that perhaps the way was known earlier. Earlier the things were clear enough, but now they have become erased, they have become misty, maybe because they have become fragmented. Now whether this is true, whether it is really the case that earlier people in ancient times, they knew the world in the better perspective, I can't say.
And again, we should not misunderstand that M. Kamal is simply celebrating confusion, like many of the existential writers. Simply, he is not simply celebrating meaninglessness or rootlessness here. He points out a way out of it. He says that at the end of every path, there is jungle.
Yeah.
And that means after some guidance that you can get from some other people, from history, from mythology, from religion, from political systems, at the end of that path, each person has to work out his own destiny. Each person has to work out his or her own salvation. Because jungle represents there is no path. Yeah. If the path is to be created, it is going to be a trail, a pagdandi, right? Where you can leave your footprints on the sand.
And only when you have walked, the conversations between B and A, Vinodji, they are also quite meaningful.
Yes.
We take A to be a half lunatic person in the beginning. Even B takes him to be so. But gradually, after every scene, after one of the groups, they depart, then A has the conversation. He asks B to come to the bench. Let us sit and think.
Let us sit and think. That's very important sentence.
Yeah.
Let us think.
And A says, you are just inquiring. You have not even walked down a single path. So please walk down.
And he says only that person has the right to ask the question, where does this path lead? Who has walked a little.
And ultimately he says, all the paths come here. That means wherever we find ourselves, wherever we are, all the paths ultimately converge here. From here only we can start walking down.
And if you walk, it is a path. If you stop, it is a
destination.
As simple as that. And this is very important, right? Yeah. So again, the playwright is for all for action.
Yeah.
And again, this is very important. Again, Nietzsche comes to our mind, who says instead of bothering yourself whether it's a meaningless or meaningful, just give yourself to action.
That's it. And action without certainty. Definitely we can't have the certainty where this path leads to or what will be the consequences of my action. So
it is to be understood that if we knew beforehand where this path would lead to, the question itself becomes invalid. Why you're asking this path lead to? Because you know where does this path lead to. Because you do not know. Because it is all shrouded in mystery. So our life is shrouded in mystery. One of the mysteries of the life is that we are not given to know what is going to happen tomorrow.
Or the another interpretation can be, Vinodji, that instead of perceiving it as something already written, already created and being shrouded in mystery, we are given the freedom to create.
In fact, it is not to be taken as everything is already written, but everything is evolving. Everything is evolving. It is a process of evolution. As we accept it in terms of biology, similarly we can accept it psychologically, emotionally, socially, culturally. We are evolving, right? We do not know where we will be. And even Karl Popper today, right? I was listening to him.
Yes.
He said that after 100 years from now, what choices people will make we
based
do not
on
know.
The facts which we don't know.
Which we do
and
not
how
know.
They will relate to those facts we don't know.
And therefore, this question of M. Kamal assumes extraordinary significance and value. Where does this path lead to? There is no answer. The repeated asking of this question, the continuous emphasis on the question throughout the play makes us understand that there is no answer to it. Question itself is answer in itself, right? There is no separate answer. So again, this is very important realization to which playwright is taking us to.
Definitely.
So, friends, I'm sure that you have enjoyed this wonderful discussion, and now I can see that there is strong interest in you to read this entire book, The Intellectual, which contains 6 wonderful plays by M. Kamal, who is well-known name in Sindhi literature, and this book is very much going to be available on Kindle, Amazon, The Intellectual.
And let me repeat, it has been translated into English by Dr. Vinod Asudani.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, friends.